Welcome back, YouTube. Been on a little bit of a break for the last couple days. I went out of state, but today we're getting back at it. I've got so many parts for so many bikes, but we're focusing on that one right there first. We're gonna get started on putting this engine back together. It may look like I'm a little cluttered, but it's just a bench full of go fast parts. We're doing a S&S 110. We've got all the feuling, nice billet parts, oil pump, cam plate, some nice woods cams. Went a little crazy on the cams. If you ask me, this thing is going to scream on the top end, a little lower on the like off the line, because he went with the woods 999, which big old cam. We did springs on the heads to compensate for what these cams are going to require. But today I'm going to focus on getting the valve train built up, and then probably tomorrow I'll focus on cylinders, heads, getting everything torqued. I'm about to put my dial indicator on here and see how close we got this crank to zero run out, because we split this case, you can kind of see in there the plugs were, or the crank pin was plugged and welded. So all the go fast parts. This is gonna be a good one. I'm gonna take my oiler and I'm gonna get some oil inside that crank. So I'm gonna have to set this up a little while. See, before I spin it, I'm gonna pull off my 9-finger fab case savers, which are awesome. Oh, we need some light. Let me get some light. I took a little Teflon to cover up the front of that. I wish I could use my other camera because it's got a light on it. I just don't really have the workspace to use anything other than the GoPro right now. So let's oil this thing up. Third time is the charm here. All we want to see is a little bit of oil in between those connecting rods. I hear it. See it glistening in the light there? Oh yeah, we're coming through now. That's good right there. So that way we know we're not spinning this thing around metal to metal. So let's get that Milch tool on there and check that run out. We're at about 1,000. That is perfect, if you ask me. So I'm going to put that back in. Let's see how easy these 9-finger fab case savers are. Yeah, this bike was at about right at 5,000s before we pulled it out, and with everything we were doing to it, I said, you know what, let's do it right. We know we won't have any problems. We know now that this crank's not going to move because it's welded. We don't want to tear up any brand new parts, especially how sensitive these aftermarket cam plates and oil pumps are, and how bad later model twin cams come out of the box. So, alright, yeah, let's start getting this thing built up. don't know what it is about pulling brand new parts out of the box, but oh man. Pull out these seals. Look at this thing, that's beautiful. So I'm going to pull this apart, get everything all lubed up and set in place, and then I'll build up the new cam plate with the new cams and get that put in and torqued down and keep moving forward. Alright, so reading through the instructions as I was putting the back side of this cam plate together, Feuling recommends that you put the oil pump onto the cam plate before installation and pre-lube it, which makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to get it mocked up there loosely because you have to I like to leave the oil pump a little loose and spin the engine over and slowly tighten up bolts so that oil pump sits right where it wants to be and it's not going to cause any premature damage. Alright, I've got it set in there. My oil pump bolts are really loose, just really probably only about hand tight, and then I've got a whole bag of bolts here that came off of this build that I've cleaned the threads on, and I'm going to start getting those placed in and start getting everything on the cam chest torqued down. Alright, I stepped out yesterday. Wasn't really feeling it, didn't really have my head in it, wasn't really trying to read the book and go back and forth, just kind of in a weird mood coming back from vacation. So I stepped out. I'm back at it this morning. I've got the cam plate torqued. I have to torque the oil pump, which, like I said, there's a procedure you need to follow in the book for making sure the oil pump doesn't have a load on it and sits in the place that it wants to sit. You got to turn the engine over and torque them in sequence. So I'm going to do that right now and then finish building up the cam chest, get the lifters in, and then we can start more on the top end. I've got the cam chest built up, torqued down. I couldn't remember if I put in these brown O-rings in there, so I took it back apart real quick and they were in, but better safe than sorry. I've got some nice S&S lifters sitting in there, pumped up. Time to start building up the top end. Checking my wrist pin fitment. Feel really good, no burrs. Slip fit, no shake, like Kevin Baxter would say. Something to check before I put all these together is the end gap on the rings. Oh, my lighting in here is just terrible, especially with this GoPro. But yeah, I got my tool in here to set the rings inside the jugs. And take my feeler gauge, check all the end gap. They're supposed to come, these CP pistons are supposed to come with the end gap set. I'm going to double check all of them and build it up. I got a little bit busy, got in a rhythm and quit recording, but we're about to go in with the second jug right now. I'll check my top deck clearance, make sure we're running the right size head gasket, clean up my mess I'm working with a little bit, and get the heads torqued. That mic can hear me. I'm gonna tighten up this cylinder head on camera. So following the bolt pattern, the sequence pattern in the book. I've already done the front one. I'm going to step back to the rear, and I'll increase my torque, and I'll do the final torque just on the rear head for you guys to see, because that's the easiest film angle that I got. That's 130 inch-pounds on the first sequence. Follow your manual. Don't take this as a how-to guide. I can do, but I cannot explain. Well, no, I can explain a little bit. My table's a little tall. Well, my bench is a little tall too. For the rear head, the front head is different. Refer to your manual. Next torque up. 16 foot-pounds. Now, I'll take this. I'm going to get a 1/2 inch adapter. Get the big wrench so it's easy. And I'm going to mark everything. Trying to show off for the camera's not so easy. Alright, not the easiest thing to do from head level, but that's that. On to the next. Keep in mind, if you're following my advice, when you install these, I hope the camera can pick it up. Should say rear head. Oh no, rear head. Yeah. It'll say rear head here and front head on the other side. Make sure you can read that facing up, because these little oil ways right here are critical. So when you stick them on there, be able to read rear head in the rear, front head in the front, and then you can put your lower rocker boxes on. Ask me how I know, because I've been in a rush before and stuck stuff together. That's why I stop if I'm not feeling it. These are directional too. One day I got a bike all done up, started rushing because we had a little run to go to down the streets. I was trying to make sure this guy could go with us, and I put his gasket on backwards, and we got down to where we're at. He's like, dude, this thing is pissing oil everywhere. I saw what I did. I was able to fix it right away, but yeah, that'll make a mess. Directional, pay attention. I'm gonna show you guys a little trick on getting these lined up perfect. Making sure you got clearance in for your valve springs. These are oversized springs, these are oversized valves. If this thing isn't lined up, you might hear something knocking on the side, and that's gonna be your valves or your valve spring assembly hitting on the rocker box. So I'm gonna show you guys what you need to do to check that. You need to go check out Fast Eddie Co. because they got good American-made tools for really good prices. These come in a 3-pack for lining up tappet blocks on shovel heads and Evos, but 1/4 20 screws fit perfect right in the center of these guys. Those snug. Now we know we're lined up, and we're gonna take, let me find out what size Allen wrench we need. I don't remember off the top of my head. Yep, so all you need is an Allen wrench. It's approximately 50 thousandths. This is a little bit bigger, and I can see that we're not gonna have an issue with what I was describing because of the way these springs taper. Heavier duty, rated for a higher lift, but the tops of them are a little more narrow as to where your stock springs, you know what, actually I might have parts right here. Well, your stock springs are going to be a little bit wider on the top, and there'll be a little bit more of an interference issue. But I can see these, the way they taper down, I have no fitment issues. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 4 bolts here. Make sure I still get the other one lined up center. I like these for lining them up center. Get my 4 bolts in here, get them in the other side, get some blue Loctite on them, and start torquing the lower rocker boxes down. The torque for these are 10 to 14 foot-pounds, So I'm going to go ahead and split it at 12. Worst part about filming these videos is I don't get to listen in my music as I go. That's why I'll end up skipping a bunch of footage. Okay, onto the front. Oh. Just that one little corner. I peeled the tape too fast. Got it. Well, you know what? I already showed the first one. I'm not going to show the second. When I go do the rocker boxes, I'll spin it back around, and well, the rocker boxes. When I do the rocker arms and the breather assembly and everything, I'll spin it back around and show you guys that. But I mean, look at this red on here. Doesn't that look nice? These nice few little accents. Our wheels are the same. We get a few other highlighted parts. I'm hoping it's not too much. I think it'll be a nice balance, so I will spin this back around in a minute. All right, we're putting the finishing touches, waiting for lifters to bleed down for the push rod adjustment. I f***ed up and I put the pistons in backwards, and I really thought about it before I barred this thing over and thought, you know, I think I did it wrong, so I pulled it back apart, and I did. I had them flip, intake on exhaust side, exhaust on intake side. So flipped them over, got everything torqued back up. It's so easy to put these things together when you're not trying to film it and show the camera and everything. I didn't show the push rod adjustment because you guys can see that in my other video. I'll try to link that up in the corner. Whatever corner it goes into, I can link it. But we're close now. I'm going to have to find some bolts for our Trask cam cover because the 12 points that work on the stock cover won't run into the... won't work with that housing. The flares on it are too wide. We need just the stock button head bolts. We're going to try to find some black ones hopefully. So we're getting close, really close. And then while I was waiting for the other set of lifters to bleed down, I finally got these pistons and wrist pins in the shovel head, and I got work to do on my uncle's bike, and I got all those bikes, and I got an engine coming for my car, and I got a front end kit for my truck, and I just have a million things to do. So we're getting there on this one. We're getting there really quick. Getting ready to call it a day because it's been a long one, but I've got it all together. The red looks really nice. I just got to get some bolts for this Trask cam cover. I just got them hanging in there. I don't have the gasket in either. Street bike's going crazy out there doing street bike crap. But yeah, we're about ready to go back into the bike. I still got to put the throttle body together, transfer all the stuff off the stock one onto this big S&S, into this big S&S throttle body. Put the new injectors in it. I've already got my exhaust gasket sitting there. I'll get the throttle body in after it's in the bike, but I'm excited. This thing turns over so smooth. Ready to go. But yeah, time to roll all my stuff away, call it a night. I gotta go get a tire put on my bike tomorrow. Got a camping trip coming up next week, a little overnight camping trip in Kernville. That's gonna be a good time. You're welcome to come. If you're watching this, you want to come out, but I'll post more on that on my Instagram. So see you guys in the next one. If you guys like this video, if you guys enjoy the progress on this, drop a comment, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. This channel's growing pretty quick. Much appreciated to everybody that's supporting it and watching the videos and interacting and all that. It goes a long way. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.